Welcome back to History of the Internet. In Episode 1, we looked at the early foundations, networks like ARPANET and the rise of bulletin board systems that laid the groundwork for online connection. Today, in Episode 2, we're jumping into the 1990s, when the Internet truly started reaching homes around the world. This was the age of dial-up, an era of strange modem noises, clunky browsers, and websites filled with flashing GIFs. It was messy, it was slow, and it was magical. If you were online in the 90s, you remember the sound. That high-pitched squeal of a dial-up modem connecting through a phone line. It wasn't just noise, it was a ritual. You'd click connect, wait nervously as the modem dialed, screeched, and hopefully negotiated a handshake with your internet service provider. But once you were connected, the phone line was yours alone. No one could make or receive calls. And if someone picked up the phone, your connection could drop instantly. One misplaced call and your session vanished, sometimes mid-download, sometimes mid-chat. It was frustrating, but part of the ritual, and part of the era's charm. Once online, the web was a different place than we know today. The first browsers people used were things like Netscape Navigator and early versions of Internet Explorer. They weren't sleek, they were clunky, slow, and often unstable. Web pages loaded line by line, especially if they had images. Watching a photo appear wasn't instant, it was a slow reveal, inching down your screen like a curtain being pulled. And the designs? Bright backgrounds, neon text, animated GIFs of construction workers. Almost every site had a hit counter at the bottom proudly showing visitor numbers. It was conspicuously personal, loud, proud, and unmistakably 90s. But the real draw wasn't just reading static pages, it was communication. Email started becoming part of daily life. Services like AOL made it exciting, complete with the famous "You've got mail" announcement. It felt personal and immediate, new in a way phone calls weren't. And then there were chat rooms. AOL, Yahoo, Chat, and ICQ opened up spaces where strangers could talk in real time. It was thrilling. You could talk to someone across the world instantly. Of course, it was also chaotic, filled with random usernames and sometimes questionable conversations. But for many, it was the first taste of online community. Finding information wasn't simple. Remember, Google didn't exist yet. Instead, you used search engines like AltaVista, Lycos, or Ask Jeeves. Results were often messy, and you had to dig through irrelevant pages. Directories were popular too. Yahoo wasn't originally a search engine. It was literally a giant directory of websites, organized by categories. Another way people discovered sites was through web rings, groups of related pages linked together, often around hobbies or fandoms. It made the web feel like a small town where everyone knew their neighbors. You found things by following people, not algorithms. The 90s web was also about self-expression. Services like GeoCities, AngelFire, and Tripod let anyone build their own page. These were quirky, personal spaces. Pages often had tiled backgrounds, rainbow text, blinking cursors, and MIDI music playing automatically. They were messy, sure, but they felt alive. The internet wasn't just something you visited. It was something you built, even if your HTML skills were, let's say, experimental. These pages felt personal in a way modern templates rarely are. They were small homes on a growing digital street. Downloading anything was an exercise in patience. An MP3 might take hours, a short video maybe overnight. And if your connection failed halfway through, you had to start all over again. But despite the slowness, the 90s internet was fun. Websites hosted silly flash games, forums sprung up for every interest imaginable, and fan pages connected people around shared passions. It was clunky, but it was the beginning of the internet as a social space. And when it worked, it felt like magic. So what was it like, really, to surf the web in the 90s? It felt small. The web wasn't endless yet. It was a frontier, and every new site felt like a discovery. You didn't scroll endlessly through feeds. You actively explored. It was personal, too. Pages weren't polished, but they carried personality. You didn't just consume content. You stumbled across digital homes people had made for themselves. And above all, it felt exciting. Even if it took 5 minutes for a picture to load, or you got kicked offline because your sibling picked up the phone, the fact that you were connected to a global network felt revolutionary. It was the start of something huge. The dial-up era was a strange mix of frustration and wonder. It was slow, noisy, and unreliable, but it introduced millions of people to the idea of a connected world. And soon, everything would change. By the late 90s and early 2000s, broadband connections, faster search engines, and a little site called Google would transform the web. That's where we're headed in episode 3. Thanks for listening to History of the Internet.